Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Wednesday weather update, recorded on the 4th of December. Well, we've got a mix between high pressure and low pressure. On the animated wind map, this also shows high pressure and low pressure. So the lower pressure and the dark shading, there's quite a sort of a solid line of it south of New Zealand, brushing the South Island, brushing the Chatham Islands, and also brushing parts of Tasmania at times. So basically, south of about latitude 40, we are seeing, that's around this line here, south of Wanganui, that's where we're seeing that lower air pressure. Further to the north, we're seeing higher air pressure. That is protecting us from lows coming down from the north, or for those who want rain, it is stopping us from getting rain from the north. And the low pressure to the south, high pressure to the north setup encourages this westerly flow. And that's what we're seeing off and on for the next week or two ahead. Sometimes strong and windy, other times lighter and calmer. It depends on the high pressure zones and if they're expanding out across us or not. So let's have a look at Thursday lunchtime. You can see the next high is out over the Tasman Sea between Tasmania and coming in towards the western side of New Zealand. So between the high in the Tasman and this low southeast of Dunedin, windy southwesterly flow across New Zealand. Now that might mean locally you've got a northwesterly, in some areas it might be a bit more southwesterly, depends on where you live. Windy through Cook Strait, windy around the Southern Alps, and for the eastern side of the North Island, still pretty hot with those west to northwest winds blowing through, but it will be cooler around the South Island as that more southerly feed starts to come in. Dry in many places. A few showers are moving into the North Island, mostly on the western side. It's not going to be very much. And even drier on Friday for the North Island. The winds ease back on Friday, so it won't be as warm over on the eastern side of the North Island. Some of you will be very happy about that. Bit of a cool down on the way. Elsewhere though, showers return to Southland. Once again, they're not going to be very much. They're not going to add up to a huge amount, and mostly dry over on the west coast. So make the most of that, because generally speaking, over the next couple of weeks, there is plenty of rain coming for the west coast, especially the southern half of it. So let's have a look at the weekend. High pressure is in control, and what you're going to see across the day with this slight northwesterly flow, it's not strong enough to make it hot and dry. Instead, it might be just enough to boost up some of those afternoon downpours. So we're going to be seeing some afternoon thunderstorms along the eastern side of both main islands. Some of those could have thunder, otherwise just heavy downpours coming through as we go through into the afternoon. 1 p.m. sort of going through to 4, 5 p.m., maybe even into the early evening, we'll be seeing those. And they're likely to drift eastwards, mostly because of the general west to northwesterly wind, and so most of those showers will drift eastwards. That's why you're seeing them form along the eastern side of the country. But as we go through to Sunday, it's a different story. Not really the chance of thunderstorms, or there may be a couple on the west coast. Heavy rain and a cold front coming through, and we've got stormier low pressure just south of Stewart Island. That is helping to fuel a windy northwesterly flow across the country. High pressure is now to the northeast. So rather than it being out over towards Tasmania, which brought in that big windy southwesterly for us on Thursday, by the time we get to Sunday, it's changed places, and now we've got a windy northwesterly. So that's a warmer, hotter direction right across the country, with that heavy rain up the west coast, severe gales around the South Island, and maybe around Cook Strait a bit later on. Hot weather around the North Island, the eastern side because of the nor'wester and the sun. The western and northern sides getting that more subtropical breeze. So either way, Sunday's a pretty warm to hot day across many parts of the country, but the west coast will be cooler, obviously, with all of that cloud around and the rain. Now by Monday, there's a colder change just brushing the country. So overnight Sunday, early Monday morning, this cold front sort of brushes by thanks to this storm, southeast of Dunedin, south of the Chatham Islands, 960 hectopascals in the middle of that. That is a very deep storm. And that means more wind between the low and the high over the Tasman Sea, back to the Tasman again. And so windy westerlies right across New Zealand. They'll still be hot for parts of the eastern North Island. The front barely exists by the time it reaches the upper North Island, running into that high pressure, and plenty of showers on the western and southern coastlines of the South Island, including a dusting of snow along the mountains and ranges. So a bit of a spring blast going through Sunday and Monday, but it's going to bring summer heat with it as well. Our final map is for Tuesday, and it kind of sums up what I said yesterday, what I've been saying in the Climate Watch video about the next month or two ahead. Plenty of big storms south of Australia, south of New Zealand, hugging Antarctica. 60 hectopascals, 970 south of New Zealand, another one 970 here. These are big storms. The high pressure zones south of Australia and around the Tasman Sea, North Island area aren't very powerful. They're kind of big, but they're not very powerful at the center of them, 10, 20, only slightly above average air pressure. So that means a lot of our weather is being dominated by the Southern Ocean weather patterns. And for now, there's not much going on in the tropics to bring us any kind of concern. In fact, even around Fiji, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, and over towards Queensland and the top end, we're not really seeing much in the way of wet weather just yet. So we're still waiting for that to maybe spark off a bit more going into the start of next year. But for now, most of our weather being dominated from around New Zealand and south of us. That is all from me. We'll see you again tomorrow, Thursday, with our next New Zealand update plus our next 7-day Australia outlook. We'll see you tomorrow, Thursday.